Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new TV show spoiler review here at Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Sinberg. Today, I'm giving you my spoiler review for season 3, episode 7 of the HBO show of Euphoria. The episode is titled Rain or Shine. So, welcome back in, everyone, to Max Talks Movies. We're talking all things episode 7 of season 3 of Euphoria. So, if you've not seen the newest episode, which came out on Sunday night, go check out the full episode. It's around an hour and 15 minutes long. Check it out, then come back here because this is a full spoiler review. And without further ado, let's get into this past episode. And I know a lot of people were very much big fans of this episode. But I'm not one of those people. I'm not coming out here from a hating perspective because the first two seasons of this show to me are perfect. I would not really change much about what the first two seasons were. I had such anticipation for the show, and even with the low bar that I've been setting the show up with the last couple of weeks, it's still not even hitting that for me anymore. And for me, the biggest problem with the season as a whole, especially in this episode, is a lot of things happen just for shock value things. We get multiple twists and turns in this episode. We get a death in this episode, a lot of deaths in this episode, and I just feel like we've lost all logic. Nothing in this show for me anymore makes any sense. Characters who were very smart as high schoolers are now acting dumb as adults, which really doesn't make any sense why characters who were very smart people, calculated people in high school are now, I'll just be frank, dumbasses as adults without any explanation. We don't really get why. And as I said, I think it's just this show has become shock value for shock value's sake, not actual logic, not given a specific plot reason, just for we want to do this to get a ooh and ah from our audience. And guess what? A lot of people are going to be satisfied with things that happen in this episode. I was not. It's not that this is an embarrassing episode or one of the worst episodes of television. I'm at this point where I still get disappointed by this show. Because of how much I adored those first two seasons. So, Rain or Shine kicks off with a flashback part of the episode to Ali, played by Coleman Domingo, who has not been in the show since season 1. And this is the problem I have with this episode. First of all, I love Coleman Domingo. He was great in this episode. I don't think we needed an Ali backstory added to this episode. It really feels like they did not understand that people watched that pandemic era episode of, in between seasons 1 and 2, we got that diner episode between Rue and Ali. And Ali in that episode went through his entire backstory, his relationship with his daughter, what he did in the house, the stuff he smoked, the drugs he used. Like he told Rue all of that in this episode. And basically, we get the visual version of that mini pandemic episode into the opening 15, 20 minutes of this episode. And I just felt it to be completely unnecessary. The only part that was new that we didn't know technically, I guess, was he sponsors so many people. He lives to sponsor people. And a lot of the time, he doesn't technically win those battles. A lot of those people either overdose or commit suicide or all of these things. So I thought that element was an intriguing new element into Ali. The remainder of Ali's backstory of like Natasha Lyonne and what he did in his house and the way he was physical towards his wife, all of that we already knew. So it just felt like we were retreading because maybe Levinson didn't trust that enough people either remembered that episode or even watched that episode in the first place. I love that pandemic era episode between Rue and Ali. I thought it was fantastic and really showcased Zendaya and Coleman on a really new level. So I felt like 90% of Ali's backstory I had already known, and it didn't need to be retold to me in this episode. But we get Ali and Rue. Rue's trying to figure out her next situation. She begins just telling everyone what's been happening in her life, like out of the blue in this episode. She told Lexi what's going on. She tells Ali everything that's going on. I'm totally cool with her being honest, but it just feels reckless to just be spouting out that you're working for, you're involved with a cowboy who kills people, excuse me, Nazis, and the police, the federal government. Like just spouting it out in public. I mean, again, these are characters. I know Rue is someone who's getting over drug addiction, and again, she's not supposed to be like the smartest of characters on this series, but even her, she could be a little bit more self-aware in this episode. But none of these characters are really self-aware in the show anymore. I think that's a big problem as well. So at first, Rue goes to Lexi's, where Lexi's trying to write this part still for Cassie in the movie or in the show, whatever it is, and Rue keeps distracting her. And then Lexi is so out of character in the scene where she's like, "Oh my God, you look like you're still on drugs. There's a reason why your mom's never talking to you." And I was like, "What the hell is happening?" Like, Lexi is the nicest, sweetest character on the show. And yes, is Rue being really annoying to her because she's trying to work? Yes. But Lexi isn't like rude where she's going to say some really personal stuff to Rue like that. Like, it was so personal. And I was like, what is happening? Um, Maud Apatow, love her to death, especially in this show. Love Lexi as a character. Could not believe that was written. It just did not feel like Lexi Howard whatsoever. Another part that didn't feel like Rue was after she has that conversation with Lexi, she goes up to check on Cassie. Like, when does Rue ever care about Cassie in the first place? Who knows? But that she went to go ask. I want to speak the Rue part. We'll get to the other parts. Rue does talk to Ali, and also so she tells Lexi and Ali about what she's been doing. So she tells Ali, and she brings up that they know who my mom is, and they're trying to kill her. And he's like, "Don't go. Stay out of this." And they're like, "It's not just like they're gonna let me get out of this. They're not just gonna kill my mom now. They'll kill you. They'll kill me." And I do like the Ali and Rue scene here. I thought it was fantastic. Like you could really feel Ali's ride or die nature with Rue. And the fact that Rue really needs someone in her life like that. She thought she could trust Faye later in the episode. Obviously, that did not happen. Fez in story, I'm saying. In story. Fez is in prison. Jules slapped her in the face last episode and not doesn't seem to be a part of the show anymore. I'll get to that later. But Rue's very on and off with her mom. We don't get any inkling if she's talking to her sister at all. So she's really just down to, and obviously now Maddie's working for Alamo, so she's really down to nobody. Lexi just threw her out of her house saying that she should never, there's a reason why no one talks to her. So she's kind of been demeaned to a point in this episode, Rue. Really beaten down. I just explained like 10 characters who are just trying to get her out of her life. And Ali is always there. The ride or die nature of Ali being a sponsor. He sees her as family. And I think it's a really authentic and amazing relationship. Someone in a drug addiction, someone who's still battling drug addiction, but is now sponsoring people and is making sure his life is about saving people and getting people to the next phase of their life. And I think it's really inspiring. And I think the Coleman Domingo and Zendaya, their dynamic is one of the best parts of this show, all 3 seasons. So I thought that stuff was really fantastic. We'll catch up with Rue. So Rue, we'll end on this point. Alamo needs Rue to go to Lori's. So she's there to be able to do something when Alamo and his people show up to confront Lori the next day. Rue goes over there. Yeah, we can just finish the Rue part because the big part of the episode was with Maddie, Cassie, and Nate. So Rue goes to Lori's. They really don't trust her still, but she is still there. Her excuse was that Alamo beat her up and has tried to kill her. But basically, all of Lori's people are already planning on killing her anyway. But the one person who is seemingly offended by everything that's going on is Faye. And Faye's boyfriend explains what Nazis do with like chopping off like animals' heads and what they do with them. It's like disturbing stuff. And Faye's like disturbed by it. And Faye's like, all right, let's get the money from the safe they wanted to steal and let's get out of here. And Rue's perfectly okay with it. But when they open the safe, there is no more money. It is all of the IDs of the people that Alamo's been sending to the rehab. So Rue recognized obviously the person that she slept with in the beginning of the show, who she thought she was sending to rehab. Clearly, it was not rehab. And they're disappointed. Rue is disappointed that there's no money, but it's easy. Just put the safe away, and she'll get Faye paid. But Faye is very angry that there's no money. She's like, you lie to me. Everyone's lying to me. I have no one who can trust. And the episode ends on a cliffhanger where Faye basically outs Rue. Um, I'll say this before we get to the Cassie stuff. Zendaya has been really one of the main people who have been saying publicly that this is the last season. There seem to be reports out there that Levinson might want to continue the show. I would not be shocked if Rue dies or gets written off next week because even if they want to continue, I don't really see a world where Zendaya wants to move forward. Again, she was a producer in the first two seasons of the series. She's no longer a producer on the show anymore. Seemingly, her and Levinson don't seem to be on the best of terms, if you see the rumblings and the reports. So I can totally see if Levinson wants to continue on and some of the actors do, I could totally see Zendaya being like, I'm done. Like, if you guys want to continue on, go ahead, but this is my last season of the show. I wish everyone involved here on the show would move on and do other things at this point. But that's how I feel. I think from a character perspective, I would be so pissed if she gets killed off, but also mix of like, thank God, 'cause I think Zendaya does need to be done with this show and move on. Even though, again, she's fantastic in the series. It's one of the best performances on TV you will ever see with her on these three seasons, but that's how I feel. Let's get to the Cassie, Maddie, Nate of it. So Nate is once again being held basically at gunpoint by the villainous character who's been hovering over him all season. Um, Jimenez, I believe is his name. And Jimenez makes a deal with Cassie where he's like, you pay me this money in 72 hours, Nate is free to go. And Cassie starts to, Maddie was very mad at her that she deleted the OnlyFans, and Maddie says, I'm your boss. That's the relationship. We're not friends. I'm your boss. You do everything I say. I own you, this of that nature. So Cassie's, gets fired from the movie because the head of the studio realized that she was working in his eyes a porn star. So there's no, he's like, why are we taking a risk? Let's hire an actress to do it. It's like hiring a serial killer to play a serial killer. So Sharon Stone's character, they fire Cassie, but they actually like the storyline that Lexi wrote. But again, all this Cassie Hollywood stuff basically got completely dropped in this episode after being set up throughout the entire season. So Cassie's trying to do this work. She sleeps with the actor friend who Maddie used to represent and try to post on his Instagram that she's with him and get her back in the public eye again to make more money. But Cassie did not make enough money or didn't send any money back to Jimenez. Nate is now underneath like the rubble where the plants are, and a snake comes down. After his brother was like looking for him, a snake comes down the tube and kills Nate. Nate dies via snake. So yeah, Nate was my favorite character on the show. Post the wedding episode of this season, he has been written horribly, and I feel bad because I think Jacob Elordi is one of the best actors on the show. He was my favorite character. He's the most interesting character on the show, and he was written to be an absolute wimp and a joke in these last like four episodes. So he dies via snake. Elordi said in the after stuff, he was like, that was a cool way to go out, and I was like. Aren't there more satisfying ways for Nate to die than a snake bites him in the neck? But that's what happened. So Cassie gets hung up and kidnapped by Jimenez. And now the only person Cassie can go to get $1 million in 24 hours is Maddie. So she calls Maddie, and Maddie has to make a deal with Alamo because that's the only person she knows who can get her $1 million with the snap of his fingers. So she has to get dressed in this very, showing bikini, very uncomfortable scene between Maddie and Alamo. And it seems like Alamo and Maddie are going to be making a deal where, Alamo is going to do the deal. They're walking up, but he's like, this is your deal, so you handle it. So Jimenez walks out of the truck. We get the scene where, Cassie's being brought up. Maddie leaves the money. They get Cassie back, and he's like, where's the money? And then Alamo shoots the guy, and they're like, all right, we finally saved the day. And they realize that Nate is dead. Cassie's in a full-on cry. Lexi's like speechless, and then Lexi realizes that it wasn't like Alamo was doing this all for free. Now he's going to get paid a lot more for all the deals, and now Maddie, I guess, finally realizes who she's working with. Out of all the characters, Maddie was very self-aware of what was happening in her life, her surroundings, who she gets involved with. And I was trying to tell people around my who friends and family, like four or five people, trying to play. They were like, "Oh my God, Maddie knows what she's doing with Alamo. She knows she just wants to make some money." I was like, "Does Maddie really know what she's getting into? Because it makes no sense why she's getting involved with Alamo from a character perspective." And here we are, and they're writing her to be a total idiot where Maddie is just spewing out that Rue's a rat to Alamo for no reason. Um, and the Rue's telling all of her friends that what's going on. And then Maddie is like shocked to realize that Alamo is this dark and ruthless. Like, what? Um, that's my big WTF. Do I think this is the worst episode of all time and the worst season of all time? No. I am just so beyond frustrated that this is where the show is. The truth is, I wish this season now has never existed. And because I think season two ended off so perfectly for all the characters. And now we're at this point now where nothing makes any sense. Nothing feels tangible or real anymore about the show. And now we're setting up for a big hour and a half long episode to close out season three. Also, Jules was not even in this episode. It took me an hour until the episode was over to realize that Jules was not even in this episode anymore. She's become like a cameo at this point in this season more than like an actual part of the ensemble. So that's my thoughts. I'm frustrated. I love a lot of the actors, and of course, I do care for these characters deeply. That's why I have these deep feelings. But that's my thoughts on this episode. I'll be back. I'm sorry I was 2 days late to this review. I promise you guys this Monday, I'll be breaking down my full spoiler thoughts on the finale of Euphoria this Monday. So please stay tuned. Like the video, subscribe to my Patreon, subscribe to my YouTube channel, comment down below. Do you agree with me with your thoughts on Euphoria? Or are you enjoying it? Is this your favorite, least favorite season? Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. I respond to every comment. And I'll see you guys in another video very soon.